Good morning, it's January 28th, and this is To My Liberal Friends. When this country was created, the basic premise was that we would have free speech, and the press would be unfettered in seeking out the truth. The government would be unable to shackle the press, and the press should question government and not be complicit in supporting one politician over another. Somewhere along the line, this concept of an independent media seems to have disappeared, and the media, both print and electronic, seem to have taken a side, and that is to the detriment of the people. We see multiple questions being posed to the public, and answers vary depending on the source of your news. Was Joe Biden as sharp as a tack on top of everything at the White House? What was the actual source of the COVID virus? Did it originate at a lab in China, or was it evolved from an animal? Why was Anthony Fauci considered the only reliable source? What was the real cause of inflation? These are all questions that should be debated, and a free society should be willing to listen to all points of view and draw their own conclusions on the answers. A vast diversity of opinions should be openly discussed in our society. However, the past 4 years have seen a sustained effort to overturn the principles of the open society. The just departed administration, which Biden was the decrepit figurehead, tried to impose by threat or mandate a version of reality that brooked no discussion. The mainstream media bought into this government intervention of free discussion of ideas. We recently were told by Mark Zuckerberg from Meta that the Biden administration forced them to censor comments that were counter to the policy and statements of the administration. From the COVID pandemic to the state of the economy, not to mention the war on fossil fuel energy, the Biden administration made the determination that they were the guardians of the truth and urged their allies in the media to promote their versions of the truth. In reality, they were not telling us the truth and only masking their own inadequacies. When you realize you're wrong about something, you should pivot, try to make a correction. When you fail, you try something different. In the world of science, it's referred to as trial and error. Unfortunately, you hope it brings you to the correct answer, or in the political realm, the truth. The Biden administration, being wrong on so many things, decided to sanctify their errors. They decided they were the real keepers and owners of the truth. And they told us over and over that they were giving us the facts and ignore everything else and simply believe them. According to the Biden people, Joe Biden was sharp as a tack and on top of everything. They told us to ignore his performance in a debate. They told us that video of him seeming lost or stumbling were fake videos by conservatives. They told us to ignore anyone suggesting COVID came from a lab in Wuhan, China, and believe Dr. Fauci as he was the only expert on the subject. Ignore this organization that helped fund gain-of-function research at that lab. They told us inflation was transitory. It was not Biden's fault. Then it was Putin's fault. And then it was greedy corporations or some other excuse, but certainly not Biden's fault. During the pandemic, the Prime Minister of New Zealand made an outlandish statement. Quote, "We will continue to be your single source of truth." That's referring to her government. "Unless you hear from us, it is not the truth," end quote. The Biden administration adopted this line of thinking and basically repeated it to the American people. Unfortunately, the media and most of academia bought this hook, line, and sinker. They defended this thought process and on campuses implemented it like it was the gospel truth. We now know that the people in the Biden White House tried to stifle free speech. They pressured many in the social media space to take down anything that did not comport with their official line. I think they would have liked to become like our second president, John Adams, and reinstate the Seditions Act. Under that law, it was illegal to criticize the government in writing, speech, or print. At that time, in 1798, it was aimed at the political opponents of the Adams administration. Wow, sounds like today. Trump can be criticized for many things, but not for trying to control speech and thought. He's open to the press and willing to answer any questions they put to him. He just signed an executive order prohibiting the federal government from engaging in facilitating or funding, quote, any conduct that would unconstitutionally abridge the free speech of any American citizen. And I would hope the press would also become more open and quit trying to be a shill for one set of ideas and one party. The revelation that Politico was stopping reporters from writing about the Hunter Biden laptop, specifically and tamping down stories critical of the Biden campaign in 2020 and later in his presidency, cannot be allowed to continue to happen. It should never have happened. Journalists have to be aggressive in covering politicians, and they must adhere to a strict code of ethics where partisanship is disavowed and the truth flourishes. The Washington Post should read its own motto of, quote, "Democracy dies in darkness," end quote, and starting reporting news with a little more even-handedness. That might help their subscription rate too. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy the podcast, hit the subscribe button, particularly on YouTube. Thank you.